Welcome to Marriage Unmasked. Today we are talking about a painful topic with communication. And this is something that we see over and over in couples, and it just creates so much disconnection. And we really want to get to the root of it today. So we're talking about why you keep talking to your spouse and you still don't feel heard or understood even. And that misunderstanding, it doesn't just cause tension in your relationship, it creates loneliness, which when you're already hurting, you're trying to express yourself and now you don't feel heard or understood. To add loneliness to that is really, really painful. And so we're going to explore how spouses often communicate in two different emotional languages. And we're going to get to the root of that and talk about how to move forward in a healthier way. And Adam and I have experienced this so many times, and it's been just like that. It's so painful.
Yeah, because it feels like you're hitting your head against a brick wall trying to communicate. And it's just back and forth, and you're not getting anywhere.
Not that long ago, we were at the library with our kids, and we were having some issues. Like, there were books that they said were due, and none of my kids said they knew where they were. There was a book that we'd never even checked out. And so I am like running around trying to figure this out with the librarian. And I'm also trying to help the kids get books and get them checked out. And there was a moment where I came over to Adam and he was just playing with our youngest.
Yeah.
And I said, could you help the kids check their books out? And he kind of gave me this look, and then he was like, well, I'm just playing like I always do. I had been feeling overwhelmed for a while, just with like a lot of parenting responsibilities and just handling a lot of things.
Yeah, this is at the end of a long week.
Yeah.
You know, like we go to the library on Saturday morning, so it's been all week of Cara handling a lot of things at home and with the kids. And then now at the library, she's handling all this other stuff, and I'm just playing with Haven, our youngest.
Yeah, and so I was then extra frustrated by his response. Yeah. So then I kind of took over, like, okay, guys, let's go check out. Kind of huffing and puffing inside, and probably the energy was radiated out.
Definitely could tell.
And so then when we got in the car, I just asked him, why did you say that you were playing with Haven? What does that mean? Why would you say that to me?
Yeah, I got defensive because I felt like this was an attack, which it really wasn't. But I was viewing this as a very logical thing. Like, okay, well, this is what I do all the time. This is what I always do at the library. It's like a special time for me because I don't see the kids as much. So I get this special time to play with Haven, to play with some of the kids, to kind of like connect with them. So I think I'm just answering her question logically. But what I'm failing to do is really tune into the emotion and to what's behind it and the greater context of the situation. So to me, I feel like, well, what's the big deal? Why are you attacking me for this? And I get defensive about it. I start to explain, this is what I always do. This is just what I'm doing. And I just kind of throw out that whole attunement thing where I'm really like tuning into what is her emotion? What is she going through right now?
And I did try to explain, like, I'm feeling really frustrated and I'm feeling overwhelmed. Like, I am carrying all these things. Anyways, so it was just a like, it was just really a painful communication.
Right. And then we kept talking past each other in that situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Not really connecting.
Yeah. And so that is a cycle that I'm sure you're like, yep, that's happened to us so many times in, different ways. Obviously, probably not the exact same situation, but when we have, a husband and a wife who are very different human beings, we have different ways of speaking. And from a woman's perspective, you're like, I'm trying to explain what hurts.
Yeah.
Right. But he hears it as an attack and he gets defensive. Yeah. And that's really frustrating. And that was really frustrating for me too. It's like, why are you making this about you and defending yourself? Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to tell you I'm feeling overwhelmed, right? And I'm frustrated. And sometimes it looks like, he responds with logic, like he said, yep. So like he's responding logically when I just need him to hold space for me. And I really did. I just needed to know, like, I see you in what you're going through. I care about you. Like, I want to help carry this burden, right? That's what I needed.
And even to take some ownership for the fact that I wasn't tuned in,
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't paying attention. I was thinking, oh, she's just, checking out some books. She's looking in the library. I wasn't tuned into the fact that she was actually stressed out about a lot of these things that she was taking care of at the library. And if I would have tuned into that and been aware of the atmosphere, it would have really helped me to actually respond in a healthier way. A lot of times a man's goal is to manage the upsetness. And you think you're going to do that by explaining the situation, being very logical and saying, well, this is what I was thinking, this is what was going on. And that comes across as defensive. You're trying to defend yourself, but it also comes across as invalidating for the woman because she just wants to be heard and seen for what she's going through. And the man's perspective often is, well, she's always upset, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. And that's the thought going through his head. And so he's trying to fix the situation. He's trying to fix her emotions, even. And that's not something you can really do, is fix people's emotions. But that is often what we as men try to do, is try to fix her emotions. And you start to get really frustrated as a man because it doesn't seem to be going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you're both trying in your own way, but you are speaking these two different emotional languages, which that can also be shaped by your upbringing, trauma that you are holding in your body, and your nervous system patterns, how you react. And so those are some things to kind of think about as well when you're thinking about how you do communicate. For a woman, her language often sounds like feelings and a tone, subtle bids for connection, right? Like what happened with us was I wanted him to see what I was going through, right? I'm trying to connect with him. I'm trying to like get some support and get connected so that we're on the same page, right? But he didn't see it that way. But what I really want is we want safety as women, right? We want empathy. We want love before we get a solution from him. Those are the things that we really want.
So for a man, his language is problem solving. So he's trying to be logical. He's trying to fix whatever is wrong by explaining and logically laying out the facts and not really necessarily taking in that emotional cues that he's getting. And a lot of times a man tries to minimize the intensity because a man is really looking for peace in a relationship. He's really going for that. And so I probably even said it myself, but something that I've noticed men do a lot is trying to tell their wife to calm down. Can you just calm down? And that is invalidating, honestly, because you're trying to just tell her to manage her emotions and get on the same page with you in this logical plane. You're talking from your own language, and you're not actually trying to understand from her perspective what she's going through. That can be very frustrating for a woman when you're just telling her to calm down and you're invalidating what she's going through, because that's what she wants. She needs to hear from you is that validation of her emotional experience. Also, like he's looking for appreciation, he's looking for clarity, he's looking for those kind of things in the conversation, and he can react negatively when he's not getting those kind of things.
Yeah, so the bottom line is what happens often in these like different emotional languages that we speak is the need behind the words gets lost. What we want to be thinking about when we are communicating is like, what is the need behind their words, right? Often wives don't just want to be heard, right? They want to be safe. They want to feel seen. They want to feel understood without having to fight for it. I hear this from wives all the time. I mean, it's so painful. And just myself too. It's just a very painful thing to feel like the things on your heart that you're opening up vulnerably, they're not being accepted. They're not being heard. And you end up feeling invisible, which is the opposite of feeling loved, which is what we're really going for.
Yeah. And as a man, you don't want that. You don't want your wife in that kind of situation and feeling that kind of pain. And husbands are often, they're not trying to ignore or dismiss what their wife is going through. That's not their intention behind what they're saying and doing. But a lot of times husbands are operating from a self-protective space. There can be some unhealed stuff or, unawareness of their own emotional needs in the moment.
Yeah.
And so then they're acting out of that. And so then they get really defensive. What a man is often hearing is, I failed, instead of hearing her heart, which is saying, I need you right now.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, we want to talk about how do we move forward and how do we get out of this. Just because you do speak two different emotional languages does not mean you can't understand each other. It does not mean that this is just the way it is. We're going to be in disconnection forever. No, absolutely not. I want to talk about what's needed to heal, right? We want to get down to the root of it. I could give you, you know, 10 ways to like try to, you know, hear each other or try to get past like 10 tips. No, I don't want to do that. We always like to help our couples that we work with get deeper, because that's how lasting change happens, not from trying out 10 new tips, right? Yeah. The first thing for wives, but really also for husbands, is to regulate. You know, instead of reacting from whatever pain is coming up, then you want to regulate yourself. You want to be able to check in with my body. Okay, what's going on for me? Slow your breathing down, right? See how you're feeling. Notice what is that emotion. That's going to help you to respond instead of reacting out of pain.
And that's huge for men too. It really is, because, and that's something men don't often practice enough, is that regulation. And then that can escalate things very quickly if a man doesn't respond instead of like just reacting to the natural emotions that are coming up inside.
You also, I think this is really helpful, is to reframe what being heard, you know, that phrase being heard, what that really means, right? Sometimes we think it's like, he's going to respond exactly how I want him to. Like, that's what being heard means. It means he listens, then he gives me a hug, and you know what I mean? Like, I'm just giving an example. But, you know, we think that's what it means. But can we reframe that? And maybe what it means is like, I can express vulnerably. I'm going to share my needs. I'm going to share my heart, but I'm going to trust that God is with me. He cares about me, and I'm going to trust him with the outcome of what happens. And I'm not saying that means you need to close yourself down, silence yourself, not really share your needs, just kind of tiptoe around your husband. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just asking you to get curious about what does maybe being heard mean to you right now, and then can you reframe it by adding in this whole part about like how you are safe with God no matter how your husband responds, right? Because like we talked about, this miscommunication can lead to you feeling so unloved, but you are so loved. No matter what he does, you are so loved by God. And so knowing that and coming back to that is really going to help you to be able to move forward in a different way. And then that kind of moves into like the whole, like I said, getting curious, like really also getting curious over getting defensive. And this is really a lot of times more for men, I think, right? Where, because they're often the ones who are getting defensive right away. And typically a woman is starting the conversation and sharing her heart. I mean, this can obviously happen the other way around too, where a man is trying to share something with his wife and she maybe gets defensive. So either way, but if you find yourself getting defensive, try to move to curiosity, where you ask, what's really going on under what they're saying? What is that need? What is going on with their heart, right? And getting curious. And then owning your own emotional language. I think this is another one that can be helpful for anyone, especially if you maybe didn't grow up and with emotional awareness and you weren't taught these things, right? You don't even know. I mean, some of the wives I work with in Restored, they have a really hard time even knowing what emotion they're feeling. And I have the same issue, even sometimes still, because when you didn't grow up learning that, it's something that you learn by practicing. And so it's totally okay if you don't right away understand what emotion you're feeling. You just know you're upset, right? So it's a practice knowing what emotion that is, naming that, instead of just speaking from pain and just exploding it all over the place.
That's actually very true for men too, because a lot of men, again, they're not as tuned into their emotional center and what they're going through either. And so the awareness and the ability to like really tune in to what you're experiencing inside emotionally, to name that and to have tools for bringing that awareness, and then also regulating those emotions. A lot of times men operate out of like a wounded place emotionally, and we don't even realize that. We think we're being very logical, operating purely on the basis of logic, and we're keeping emotions out, but a lot of the underside of it is still being driven by emotions that we're not fully understanding. So emotional healing and emotional awareness for men it's really super important, and it's very powerful. So you want to also understand your wife's language as well, and understand, that she needs you to be tuned into your emotions and be able to express those to her in a healthy way. And part of that emotional healing comes from drilling into your identity as a man and who you are, in God's eyes, and the safety and the peace that you have as a man, and the strength that you have as a man because of who you are in Christ. That you are seen, that you are appreciated by your Heavenly Father, and that He loves who you are. It's very healing for a man to really feel that at a very core level, how loved and how accepted he is by his Heavenly Father. And that heals a lot of the wounds inside of a man, and he's then able to process those emotions with God, and then from a more aware place, be able to respond to his wife.
Yeah, I mean, it's coming from, instead of you grasping, to get that acceptance or that identity from your wife,
Yeah.
you're now coming from this overflow of knowing how loved, and how much you matter to God, right? And when you know that in your heart, deep inside of you, not just in your head, right? But when you know that so deeply in your heart, you're able to pour that love out then onto your wife and your family.
Another key part of healing this for a man is to find a safe place, to really be himself and to not be shamed. And that, like that can be inside of yourself, that you are again safe with God, and that you're not shaming yourself and speaking to yourself in a really negative way. Another thing that's really key for men in their healing process in this area is to really find a group of men who they can be safe with, that they can be vulnerable with, that they can actually process through some of these emotions and some of these issues that they're feeling, that they can take and get really good advice, and feel empowered again in their relationship with their wife. And that is what my Refined group for men is all about. It's just a group of husbands who are able to open up with each other and talk about these things and actually pour into each other a lot of truth, and to find some strength together as a group, so that we can come back to our wives and back to our families and our relationships with some clarity and a clear path forward. That's also important for a man too, because men are wired to have something bigger than themselves to go after. That's bigger than the pain that they're feeling. Otherwise, if the pain is just becoming everything for them, they're going to react out of that pain. Instead, it's good to have this mission, and a group of men together can help refine that mission and help them to see the greater vision for what it means to be a man in your family, what it means to be a man for your wife, and it can really lift your eyes to this greater purpose, which is very empowering for a man, honestly.
Mm-hmm. So if there's one thing that we could, offer you to take away from this, I know that this is a painful cycle that can keep happening, and it really, we've seen couples just imploding because this is just happening over and over, and it's exhausting. It's really so draining to experience this over and over again, because it is like that, what I brought up earlier about, you feel lonely, you feel unheard, and when you feel that way, you really feel unloved. And so if I could give you one thing to take away today, it's that no matter what the communication is like with your spouse right now, you are loved, and you do matter so much to God. He loves you perfectly. He is not enjoying, he's not enjoying the pain that you're going through right now. He has a way for you forward, and he is inviting you into that healing. And if you guys need any help, we are here. This is what we do, right? We walk with wives and husbands, separately and together. So please reach out if you need any help, if you need guidance, if you need support along the way. That is completely understandable. This is very hard to walk through alone. In fact, I think the couples who try to walk through it alone end up in a much more painful place than those who reach out and get help and support. I know we couldn't do it alone, and so we offer that support to you as well. And we are praying for God to bring so much hope to your marriage and so much healing.